Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Cape Cod Chronicle. This is Elliot from the Audible Local Ledger on Thursday, May 29th, and it's getting milder and summer is soon approaching. In today's news, a storm severs the tip of North Beach Island. Officials have warned mariners against using the new cut by Tim Wood. Last week's nor'easter provided a stark reminder that the outer beach and the inlets that mariners depend on to get from Chatham Harbor and Pleasant Bay to the Atlantic are anything but stable. The storm punched a hole in a thin section of the northern tip of North Beach Island, about 100 yards south of the North Inlet. Officials advised mariners against trying to navigate through the new cut. There's a lot of sand moving in and out, Harbor Master Jason Holmes said Tuesday. Coast Guard Station Chatham Officer in Charge, Senior Chief Petty Officer Ross Comstock said that there appeared to be debris under the water. We strongly recommend mariners stay away from that area for now, Comstock said. The storm broke through a split that had extended across the North Inlet, leaving a mini island between the southern end of North Beach and the northern tip of North Beach Island. With its low profile, North Beach Island is subject to periodic washovers during the high tides and storms. Washovers typically do not remain open once a storm or high tide passes. This one seems to be different. It appears to be deepening as the tide cycle through, Holmes said. On Tuesday, surf was breaking in the new cut, and the harbor master's staff were repositioning aids to navigation. Holmes said he expects to be adjusting buoys and channel markers in that area for the next few weeks. That's not uncommon this time of year, he added, noting that aids to navigation may not always mark deep water. We're still trying to find the best water, he said, recommending that mariners keep an eye on the tides. If you see breaking seas, avoid the area, he said. The development is part of the natural evolution of the barrier beach, according to Natural Resources Director Greg Berman. These dynamic coastal systems are constantly shifting, especially near the inlet, where the sand spit has moved in and out of position repeatedly in the past, he wrote in an email Tuesday. Conditions will likely change rapidly, and we'll continue to monitor it closely as it's creating some potentially dangerous currents for boaters. Currently, the original North Inlet appears to be the best way for mariners coming from Pleasant Bay or from Riders Cove area to reach the Atlantic. Holmes said part of the spit was severed. Part of the spit that was severed protected the inlet. Right now, the South Inlet, just south of Lighthouse Beach, appears to be the more stable of the two, with 3.5 to 4 feet of water at low tide, Holmes said. That could change next week, just like the North Inlet did, he said. Until things calm down a little bit, we're cautiously optimistic until we can take a closer look. The North Inlet was formed by a northeaster in 2007, cutting off the southern end of North Beach and creating North Beach Island. A rapid peeling back of the beach followed that resulted in a number of camps being demolished or lost to erosion. The cut eventually stabilized and has been used by commercial fishermen and recreational boaters, although the deep water channel and shoals shift more or less constantly. Navigating Chatham's waterways, both in Chatham Harbor and the south side, is always challenging and can change overnight, as this latest development demonstrates. Both Holmes and Comstock said they hope to get aerial photos of the North Inlet and the new cut this week to try to get a better handle on the existing conditions. The Monomoy Yacht Club annual navigation update, which officials provide mariners with details about the conditions of the town's waterways, is scheduled for Saturday, June 14th at the Chatham Orpheum Theater. Citizens mark Memorial Day by remembering citizen soldiers by Alan Pollock. Please, no wishes of Happy Memorial Day, retired U.S. Army Specialist Ted Miller, a Vietnam veteran, told Monday's assembly to Chatham. I'm encouraging all of us to celebrate a meaningful Memorial Day, he said. Miller, the keynote speaker at this year's observance, urged attendees to remember fallen veterans not as a group of citizens, but as individuals who answered their nation's call in a time of need. He encouraged people to read their names from town war memorials and say them aloud, taking time to think of them as individual community members. It's been over 50 years since I returned from Vietnam, and all of us, those of us still alive, are grateful to be home and equally humbled to be able to pay tribute to those who did not come home. You've honored our fallen simply by your presence here today and remembering the names of those veterans of your own families and friends. This is a great meaning for those of us who served and returned, knowing that you also took the time today to remember. Chatham's Memorial Day observance was well attended, with dozens of people gathered under the trees in front of the community center. They were led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Boy Scout Ben Mills, and led in song by Laura Barabee. Sarah Marchio provided bagpipe music, and there were salutes from the crew of the Coast Guard Station Chatham, the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and the Chatham Police. Fire and Harbor Master Department, Scott Hamilton played the part of Abraham Lincoln, reading the Gettysburg Address. Organizer Rob France, retired U.S. Army Chief Warrant Officer, encouraged attendees to take time during the day to honor fallen veterans. A poll revealed that roughly only a quarter of Americans know the meaning of Memorial Day, he said. Most view it as a day off, rather. Holden received state honor. Henry Hank Holden of Chatham was honored last week during the first ever Military Appreciation Day at the State House. Holden was nominated by State Representative Hadley Ludley, Democrat, Orleans. Luddy said she was honored to recognize Holden, who's been an active volunteer and philanthropist. Hank gives his time and energy to supporting local efforts, and that commitment to community ties directly back to his heroic commitment to serving our country as an Air Force pilot during the Vietnam conflict, Luddy said. Military Appreciation Day was created by the Healy Driscoll administration to establish a lasting annual tradition that brings together local, state, and community leaders to honor those whose service might otherwise go unrecognized. Each legislator was invited to nominate a member of their local military, whether veteran, active duty, service member, National Guard reservist, or military spouse, to be honored during the ceremony. More than 125 individuals who exemplify commitment to service and community were recognized from districts across Massachusetts. The ceremony featured remarks from Governor Maura Healey and other dignitaries. This event is about gratitude, Healey said. We're here to honor the everyday heroes, veterans, active duty service members, military families whose courage, strength, and commitment continue to shape our state for the better. Military Appreciation Day is now a Massachusetts tradition, and one we'll proudly carry forward each year. Chatham Blessing of the Fleet returns Sunday by Tim Wood. After 5-year absence, the Blessing of the Fleet will return Sunday. The ceremony, sponsored by the Women of Fishing Families, will be held at the Municipal Fish Pier from 2 to 4 p.m. and will celebrate the town's commercial fishing fleet, the largest on the Cape. The Blessing of the Fleet has a long tradition among maritime communities, going back to the days when fishermen took their lives in their hands when they crossed the bar. While commercial fishing is still ranked among the most dangerous occupations, modern technology such as radar, GPS, and accurate weather forecasting has made it much less risky. It's a way to give a blessing over the entire fleet at the height of the season to keep them safe crossing the bar while at sea and coming home to port, said Sharon Shannon Eldridge of Women of Fishing Families. On Cape, Provincetown hosts probably the best-known blessing of the feast. Chatham's event will be less grand, Eldridge said, with no long parade of commercial vessels. Our blessing is more of a symbolic blessing, she said. Fishing boats will line up at the South Jog, where clergy will offer blessings for the boats and their operators, for the ocean waters, and for the family of fishermen. Chatham held a number of fleet blessings until 2019, when reservations at the fish pier put the event on hold. And then COVID hit, and WFF, which provides emergency financial support to fishing families in need, went into emergency response mode to help fishermen weather the pandemic, said Eldridge. We're just starting to get our fundraising groove back, she said, noting that the group was a beneficiary of Holiday Gala and resurrected its Mustachio Bascio event in March. In the past, the Blessing event partnered with St. Christopher's Church and Pastor Brian McGurk. He retired last year, and at this year's event, clergy from St. Christopher's, the First Congregational Church of Chatham, and Holy Redeemer Church were to participate in the blessing ceremony. The blessing will begin at 2 p.m. and last about 45 minutes, she said. A celebration in the lower parking lot of the pier adjacent to the South Jog will happen immediately after. Appropriately, there's going to be a lot of local seafood, Eldridge said, provided by the Chatham Harvesters Cooperative at the Chatham Shellfish Company. The Fierce Pier Market will be open, and Devil's Purse Brewery will serve beer. Chatham Village Market donated juice boxes and soft drinks. Retired fisherman Mike Anderson will read a poem. Fishermen lost in recent years will be remembered, and a bagpipe will play. North Chatham's Outfishers will sponsor the children's games and activities, and a display of different types of fishing gear will provide an educational component to the event. It makes it really well-rounded, Eldridge said, of the participation from local businesses and organizations. It's a real community event. Parking at the fish pier is notoriously difficult. Off-site parking will be available at Chatham Elementary School with a free shuttle bus to take people to and from the pier, beginning at 1:15 p.m. Police will be at the pier and the school to provide assistance, Eldridge said. While the event is free, WFF's distinctive pink booths will be stationed around the area for donations, all of which support the nonprofit organization's effort to help fishermen as well as provide scholarships for children of fishing families. The big thing is that this is for the fishermen and the fishing community, Eldridge said. We're hoping to get a good turnout. Page 2, a spotlight on Lower Cape personalities and visionaries. Brewster Sea Camps is home for Ed Barber, by Ellen Chey. Hop aboard Ed Barber's golf cart at Brewster Sea Camp property, and as a manager, he'll take you on a tour. He may know the place better than anyone else on Earth. He started there as a camper in 1967. Sea Camps was a private summer camp for boys and girls that was established in 1922. Barber explained to a visitor as we sat in the cart in front of the 1908 house that has served as an office since the camp days. When the private camp shut down in 2022, the voters of the town agreed to buy it as a recreation site and conservation land at what Barber described was the largest town meeting in Brewster history. One goal is to reforest some of the property by taking down some old cabins that are no longer needed. Of the 58 acres, some 10 are allocated for conservation, including trees and walking paths. I'd love to see producing trees, Barber said, say nuts or fruits, but that hasn't been decided yet. Another corner of the land has been set aside for future municipal use as needed, he said. Housing for seasonal workers is another possibility. The town is already making good use of its investment. There have been movie nights, such Touch a Truck days, soccer tournaments, and Brewster and Bloom events there. And this year, the summer recreational program, which serves 250 children, will happen here. The gates are open every day, free, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Everyone, resident or not, is welcome on the property and the beach. Only the pool is restricted to residents, and there's resident-only parking lots for the pool and the beach. But visitors from other towns may park on the roads. The select board wants to be open to everyone, Barbara said. Barbara's journey to the Cape started in the New York City borough of Queens, home at times to Louis Armstrong and Tony Bennett, the city airports, and to the New York Mets. He grew up near the old Shea Stadium. Each summer he would come here with his family, and when he was old enough, he enrolled in the sea camps for the summer. He graduated to a summer job there in 1976. He started full-time work in 1982 and has been the property manager of sea camps ever since, first for the private owners and now for the town. I enjoyed the camp job, and I really enjoyed working for the town. They're great people to work with, said Barbara. There's a small staff, one part-time person he shares with the police department, and a senior who, part of a town program, is working 64 hours in exchange for $1,000 off of real estate taxes. Barbara was educated at Columbia University School of Engineering, has a teaching certificate, and has worked as a contractor. But I always migrated back here in the summers. Now Barbara takes the golf course for a spin. We pass a number of buildings whose uses are still to be determined. A pavilion might house dances and street hockey. Some cabins might be rented out as art studios. The old boathouse might become a snack bar, a venue for weddings, or something else. 3 structures sport solar panels. Any excess power that they generate is delivered to the police station. We pass the path to the beach. Under the day's bright sky, the waters of Cape Cod Bay look soft and blue. Nearby are old tennis courts, some destined to be turned into parking and others to be reforested. Past them we stop, and Barbara points to where a lily pond is just out of sight. He also indicates where there used to be a fox den. On this segment of land, there may someday sit a Mass Audubon Nature Center. Think of it, Barbara mused. A dune, freshwater pond, front, and woodlands all within steps. And all around wildlife. I've seen newborn deer still wet, Barbara said. He also named eagles, hawks, coyotes, and the ecosystem of the flats as part of the wild population. The camp used to have a motorized raft, he recalled with a smile, and one day a seal hopped on it. The seals are still here, too. Dolphins have stranded and shellfishing is permitted. In fact, he said, the town has a program where any resident with a license can gather oysters from cages on posted Sundays during the fall. It takes longer to walk out and walk back to the beds than it does to grab the oysters. I've done it myself, said Barbara. We rolled past the theater. The camp made good use of it, Barbara explained, and now the town plans to use it for the theater and for meetings. Then we come to the fairly new art center, built by the camp just for the arts and crafts. The camp used to have 300 day campers, 370 residents, and 250 staff. And we fed them all, Barbara quipped. It was noisy, but mostly they were joyous sounds. He steered the golf cart past the only basketball court in town, so I'm told, and pulled up to the 25-yard pool, which we open for residents only from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. June 14th till about August 14th. The lifeguard goes back to college then, Barbara explained. And yes, it's heated. A very popular question. Back at the lovely old house, Barbara reflected on his identification with the beautiful chunk of Brewster. I've had a privileged life and worked with a lot of good people, he mused. I'm glad to be able to help with as much information I can to help this property to be used to implementing what the citizens want. A Changing of the Guard at the Family Pantry of Cape Cod by Alan Pollock. When Christine Menard took over as the executive director of the Family Pantry of Cape Cod in 2016, it was a different place. We were serving 164 families a week, she said. Now it's more like 800. The organization grew by necessity as more and more people found themselves unsure where their next meal was coming from. Menard will retire at the end of next month, leaving a well-organized, financially stable, highly efficient nonprofit to the next leader, Paul Lonergan. It's time for somebody else to come in and take it to another level. So now that we've got Paul in place, I'm relieved, Menard said. This is a massive responsibility. This is not like corporate America where you can just walk away. You don't walk away from this. When she's not preparing a budget or working with the board of directors, she's often seen mopping the floor or hugging or lugging clothing donations. It's the best job she's ever had. Menard said she needs the time away to tend to family matters. Menard came to the pantry from Stop and Shop, where she learned all about food distribution, personnel management, and finance. So, when she recognized the name of a former coworker among the applications for the executive director post, she was excited. Lonergan was known as a fix-it person, she recalled. They would come in and tell you what was wrong and tell you what you're supposed to be watching for. The two worked closely together for years, both having managed the East Harwich Shop and Stop at one point and both having applied to the family pantry job back in 2016. Feeling a need for career change, Lonergan saw the job posting and didn't hesitate. I never typed so fast to apply for a job in my life, he said with a chuckle. He chatted with Menard by phone the next day, and on the following day he was interviewing with the pantry's Human Resources Committee. Having impressed that group, Lonergan was hired shortly thereafter. He's now shadowing Menard for a month to learn the ropes. I think, being a warm and fuzzy guy with a lot of knowledge, I fit right in. And following my predecessor, we have kind of the same background. I've done some HR and I've done some e-commerce. I think the e-commerce might help here when we get a little bit more efficient. Efficiency is always good if it helps the client get one more item in that bag, Lonergan said. Lonergan said he's excited to get to work with the pantry's huge volunteer corps and its small group of paid staff. It's the right time in his life for this challenge, he said. I've raised my family, and it's time to give back, and there's no better way. This is meaningful, he said. What better way to do than to do it than to feed people and put clothes on their backs? In her 9-year tenure, Menard has had some challenges, but none that match the pandemic. The scariest was COVID by far. How do I keep older people safe and keep the pantry open? It was the scariest 11 days of my life. We changed the operation here 6 times in 11 days to get to this. That was one of the toughest things I've ever had to do, she said, but the result wasn't just that the pantry continued to operate safely during that time. Social distancing required a whole new system that allowed clients to continue choosing the grocery items they wanted without having to walk side by side with volunteers. The new system turned out to be vastly more efficient even long after the public health crisis had passed. We would never be able to feed 800 families a week in the old system, she said. So in that respect, COVID was a blessing. I never outgrow this building because of the system we have. What were the best moments for Menard? There have been so many positive experiences and successes, friendships she's made and things she's learned over her tenure here. But one of the happiest, to be honest with you, when he walked in, Menard said, motioning to Lonergan. And I'm not saying that, just saying that. It was such a sense of relief because the thought of leaving this building not only in the right hands, Menard doesn't finish her sentence, she just shakes her head. When he hit the building, I was like, we're good. We're okay. Orleans residents, visitors pay respects on Memorial Day by Ryan Bray. As residents and visitors proceeded from Town Cove onto Main Street Monday, they bypassed Veterans Memorial Park, deviating from the town's long-standing tradition of hosting its annual Memorial Day programming at the intersection of Main Street and Route 28. Instead, they made their way over to the Village Green next to Snow Library, which played host to this year's program while work continues to restore the Memorial Park at Academy Place. The change of venue aside, so much of Monday's proceedings felt familiar. The event, equal parts warm and somber in mood, brought people together to honor and remember those who lost their lives in service of their country. In Orleans, that includes 11 veterans dating back to the Civil War. On the green, 11 large American flags stood in honor of those local veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice. 11 men. That was the cost, said Kevin Higgins, chair of the town's Veterans and Memorial Day commitment. Attendees held an 11-second moment of silence for the veterans. In his keynote speech, retired Master Chief Petty Officer Jeff Smith of the United States Coast Guard paid special tribute to one of the local veterans, Sergeant Albert Massey of the Army Air Corps, whose family emigrated to America from Albania and eventually settled on Cape Cod, first in Chatham and later Orleans. Born in Worcester in 1919, Albert graduated from Orleans High School in 1937 and attended Rollins College in Florida before registering for the draft in 1941. He was called to duty in 1943 and killed in action on July 17, 1944, when his aircraft crashed following a successful bombing mission over France. 4 years later, as simply stated on his Orleans cemetery burial card, Albert was brought home, Smith said. Today, Sergeant Massey's sacrifice is memorialized at Albert P. Massey Square at the corner of Main Street and Locust Road. For other speakers on Monday's ceremony, including Vietnam veterans Mon Cochran and Andrew DeLaury, the memories of their fallen friends and comrades were still very much in front of their minds decades later. Cochran's cousin, Bing Emerson, was killed in Vietnam in late 1968 when his helicopter crashed after being hit by a rocket-propelled grenade. The gaping gash in the fabric of the Emerson family by Bing's death continues to be felt more than 50 years later. DeLaury, a retired U.S. Army specialist and member of the Veterans and Memorial Day Committee, remembered his friend Stephen Warner, whom he served alongside as an Army photojournalist. Warner was killed in 1971 when the armored vehicle he was traveling in while on assignment was struck by a rocket. He remains the most profound example for me on this Memorial Day, he said. Near the podium, an empty table recognized those prisoner of war who never returned home from service. As we look upon this empty table, we do not remember ghosts from the past, said John Fuller, a retired senior chief of the U.S. Navy and member of the Veterans and Memorial Day Committee. Remember our comrades. Remember those who were depended on in battle. Select Board members Michael Herman thanked voters at the recent annual town meeting who approved local adoption of the HEROES Act, which provides 100% property tax exemption for disabled veterans in town. In his speech, he echoed the sentiments of President John F. Kennedy. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not uttered in words, but to live by them, he said. Music and Monday ceremony was provided by the Nauset Regional Middle School Band and Choir. Brewster honored service members on Memorial Day by Mackenzie Blue. On Monday, residents and visitors stopped by the Council on Aging to honor the military men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice. Select Board member Amanda Bebrin hosted the event, which started at noon. The Honor Guard, made up of Brewster police officers, firefighters, members of the Brewster VFW Post 9918, and Scouts, was on site to perform ceremonial duties, including hoisting the American flag. Members of the Nauset Middle School Chorus and Band were in attendance to provide musical support during the ceremony. David Pranga, executive pastor of the Brewster Baptist Church, started the ceremony with a prayer honoring the service members who are no longer with us. Captain Mary Chaffee, a retired member of the U.S. Navy Nurse Corps and a Select Board member, spoke of the sacrifices those people made. Chaffee served in the Navy for 27 years, retiring with the rank of captain. Brigadier General Martin Lucenti closed out the ceremony, speaking about the service members who are not recognized adequately for their sacrifice. He went on to name a few examples, including a soldier whose gravestone was updated to honor his services after many realized it had not been included. Lucenti spoke of how many have fought to honor loved ones or fellow service members who were not immediately recognized. A trumpeter from Nauset Band sounded taps to end the ceremony. Today's obituaries. March 13. Chatham lost a kindred spirit. To the casual, Chatham observer Leo Hugenboom, 9/21/1928 to March 13, 25, was just another tourist. First visiting in 1967 for a short 2 weeks, then progressively over the years reaching 6 wonderful weeks, renting a small cottage by Schoolhouse Pond. The beginning of a long friendship with the Bush, Phil, and Barbara family, fellow travelers, and nearby neighbor Fringy Ling, Leo and family went daily to the Ridgevale Beach, always on day one of vacation, picking up all the parking lot trash. With 6 children, it went quickly. Leo's wife Ada had sewn a magnificent blue windscreen, combined with Leo's woodworking wizardry for poles and stakes, every day erected to shelter the family for the day. To get to Chatham every summer from Leo's home in Jonesville, New York, would seem an easy 4 to 5 hour drive down the Mass Pike. Not. Leo preferred the more scenic Route 2 route, thus a dawn to dusk adventure. Children occupied with their license plate cards. When the canal bridge appeared, what joy! The return trip home included an annual stop at Quintal's at the base of the Bourne Bridge. For many years, the one time the entire family ate out. What a treat. Future rentals included numerous cottages in Old Village, several on School Street, one on Andrew Harding's, the Apple Cottage for many years. Boats. So many boats. First came the little blue rowboat, a perfect children's boat for the Ridgeville Beach. 1973, a laser sailboat. Leo did not know how to sail, a minor detail his family learned quickly. A small 12-foot boat, 8 outboard was added. Seafood in abundance, well matched to Leo's prodigious appetite. He was always so fit, but a big motor needs a lot of fuel. Clamming, mussels, eel traps, delicious Dutch treats, and always the fallback of buying direct from the fishing boats as they came in and unloaded. Every year a spring fishing weekend, slightly varied pursuit. Theories on when and how to catch the best fish, directly or indirectly, and increasingly more and more glorious snaps in the outer beach dunes and sunny days. The significant others, all of Leo's children and over time Leo's grandchildren, great-grandchildren, came to learn a key Dutch phrase, handig is verstandig, rustic is weidelijk, stilte. Lee's was an increasingly paradox to younger children as he got older, a combination of very old-school strictness with increasing helpings of infinite patience and wisdom, and always great fascination with what Leo was doing at the time. Leo had a magical way of drawing children, families, and others otherwise in. From Leo, a heartfelt thank you from the proverbial other side to Chatham for being so welcoming of he and his family. Technically a tourist to the very end, truthfully, Chatham was a bookend to his beloved Norwich in Holland from his youth. Leo, an old salt from start to finish, his ashes will be laid to rest on both sides of the Atlantic. Fair winds and following seas to our beloved Leo. Elizabeth Scrimgeour, 95, of Green Valley, Arizona, passed away peacefully on May 14th, surrounded by her family. She was born March 29, 1930, in Worcester. She graduated from North High School, Worcester, and was a graduate of the Catherine Gibbs Business School in Boston. Elizabeth married the love of her life, David Scrimgeour, in 1949 and had 5 children. In 1980, Elizabeth and David built a home in South Chatham where they lived for 25 years before moving to Green Valley, Arizona. Elizabeth was a member of the Chatham Walkers Club, enjoyed knitting, cooking, golfing, gardening. She was a theorem painting artist and had her own shop at Chatham called Elizabeth, where she sold her paintings along with many handmade wooden items made by her husband. In 2005, they moved to their new home in Green Valley, Arizona, where Elizabeth continued to enjoy life to the fullest, taking yoga classes, water exercise, playing Mexican train, and volunteering in her community. Those who knew her loved her for a positive outlook of life, love for fashion, family, and faith in Christ. Elizabeth is survived by her daughters, 10 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren, preceded in death by her husband David and her son Mark. Russell Francis Campanelli was born in 1943 to Margaret and Joseph Campanelli in Brockton, and was raised along with his other brother Ralph, and later step-siblings Carmelina, Alphonse, and Eric. He called several towns home throughout his childhood and ultimately graduated from Duxbury High School with a class of 1961. He was proud to follow the footsteps of his father, Joe, and help grow the legacy of Campanelli Construction. He started working for the company at a young age and developed a passion for construction as he learned to drive trucks, operate equipment, and become familiar with surveying. At the onset of the Vietnam War, Russell enlisted the Marine Corps, served as a sergeant in the reserves from 1964 through 1970. He was stationed with the Marine Air Wing at Weymouth National Naval Air Station and MCAS Yuma in Arizona, leading ordnance teams arming Skyhawk and Phantom jets. While serving in the Marines, Russell attended Roger Williams University in Providence, where he obtained his bachelor's degree in engineering. In 1967, Russell met Anna Gale, the love of his life. They were married 2 years later. They enjoyed over 55 wonderful years together. After their marriage, they welcomed the birth of their first son and moved to Florida, where he worked for Campanelli Construction Company. Upon returning to Massachusetts in the early 80s, Russell became a partner and co-owner of Campanelli's. Russell and Anna Gale began building their family and welcomed the birth of their twins. Some of Russell's happiest moments stem from the deep love and pride of the home he had built in Norwell, where he was able to combine his passions for site development and nature. The result was a picturesque colonial homestead with a thriving country garden. He could also be found tending to his orchards or on his tractor, smiling happily as he worked. Russell was an avid traveler, found himself at home both in Chatham, summers in Maui, and in the winters, where he cultivated many wonderful friendships. He was a man of many passions and eagerly pursued many different hobbies, including racing his dragster, building and owning both hot rods and classic cars. He was an expert woodworker and constructed a beautiful hand-carved kayak, sailboat, and an outrigger canoe. He was an avid aviator who held a commercial pilot's license for many years, and enjoys flying out of Plymouth with his Beechcraft Bonanza to destinations throughout the country. He loved spending time in Chatham, the mountains of New Hampshire, and in Maui. He was a hiker, an amateur astronomer, musician, skier, and history buff. Russell also enjoyed boating with family and his friends. Russell was a loving, kind, humble, and generous man who took pride in everything he did. He always enjoyed being surrounded by his children and grandchildren. He improved and enriched the lives of those around him. He had a smile and infectious laugh that would brighten any room. His children were equally blessed and honored to call him their dad, and will be forever loved and greatly missed. He passed peacefully in his sleep in the comfort of his home after a long battle with Parkinson's, which he never allowed to dampen his adventurous spirit. Board shoots down Squire patio smoking request by Tim Wood. A request by the Chatham Squire to allow smoking and vaping on the Main Street restaurant's outdoor patio after serving hours was denied by the Select Board last week. Serving was allowed on the outdoor patio behind the restaurant during the pandemic and continued afterwards, with hours limited to 10 p.m. on weekends and 11 p.m. on weeknights and 11 p.m. on weekends. The restaurant and tavern remained open until 1 a.m., however, and management thought it was safer for patrons to smoke in the patio area rather than on the sidewalk or parking lot, said manager Shannon Neal. Historically, people have always smoked out back at the Squire, she said at a May 20th public hearing. Having patrons smoke on the public sidewalk or in the parking lot behind the restaurant has proven to be a logistical nightmare, especially on days when lines form to get into the tavern, and it's also unsafe, she said. The iconic restaurant's relations with neighbors have been tense since the outdoor patio was open, and many objected to allowing smoking there after serving hours ended. The board received nearly a dozen letters opposing the request, with some calling it silly, and suggested that the smokers would sneak drinks outside. Several tenants of the Mayflower Shop complex complained that last season about activity on the patio after the restricted hours, said owner David Oppenheimer. To open up for smoking is absolutely ridiculous, he said. I find this particular thing kind of comically ridiculous and also insulting to the neighbors that live in the area, he said. The idea that someone would leave their drink, go out and smoke and come back and the drink will still be there is kind of ridiculous. Striper Lane resident Gene Branson said neighbors were told that there would be no further expansion of use of the patio. Main Street resident Tom Sharkey said officials should not be promoting smoking and vaping by allowing this request. Neal said the restaurant wants to have a good relationship with its neighbors. The patio would provide a more secure area for smokers, she said, keeping them from clogging the sidewalk out front or potentially in harm's way in the car parking lot. If we were able to contain people in our patio, we have the ability to keep them under control, she said. Some town officials agreed corralling smokers in the closed patio would be safer than having them smoke on the sidewalk or parking lot. It would make it easier to control, said Chief of Police Michael Anderson. And Fire Chief Justin Taverneau agreed it would be a safer option. But the Select Board members were not convinced. I think we've been generous and understanding with allowing the nighttime use of the patio, said board member Jeffrey Dykins. He opposed the request, as did board member Sharon Davis, who saw it as a creep towards further use. Chair Dean Nicastro said approving the request would run counter to the concerns of the board, as expressed in previous hearings about the patio. The board denied the request 4-0, with member Corey Metters recusing himself. Nauset students pushed back against drama teachers' reassignment. Resounding support given to teacher before regional school committee by Ryan Bray. Several Nauset Regional High School students came to the defense of the school's drama teacher last week after learning that he will not be leading the program next year. Ian Hamilton is at the end of his existing 3-year probationary contract, but while he returned to the high school next year, it won't be as head of the school's drama program, Nauset Superintendent Brooke Clenchey said in an email last week. Mr. Hamilton will be returning to NRHS High School next year, however, in a role different from the role he fulfilled this year, she said. Molly Kashoff, whose daughter Michaela is a student of Hamilton's and a member of the Nauset Players drama group, said students in the group were informed by Hamilton May 21st that he would not be leading the drama program next year. The next night, several of Hamilton's current and former students spoke in his support before the Nauset Regional School Committee. Michaela, who joined the drama as a sophomore in Nauset, spoke about the impact of Hamilton and the drama program had on her. I'm dyslexic, so learning lines and studying lines is really hard for me, she said. She told the committee during the May 22nd public comment period. And he's taught me ways to work around that and how to deal with it. Student Desmond Conrad Firm of Yarmouthport called Hamilton a role model for students and a wonderful teacher. He came last week to the school committee meeting with a petition signed by 148 students in support of keeping Hamilton as head of the school's drama program. Because Ian is not just a teacher, he said, he's created an incredible community, a safe place, a respectful environment for his kids to learn and have this amazing experience. For Isaac Vandervent of Orleans, vice president of the Drama Club's executive board, Hamilton's proposed replacement as drama teacher doesn't just pose a loss to the drama students, but to the Nauset districts as a whole. He and others credited Hamilton with creating a culture of support and safety for students where they most needed it. It's hard to be part of a school that would get rid of a person like that, he said. Others spoke more broadly about how Hamilton's removal from the drama department will impact the state of drama at the high school overall. Aidan Purnell raised concerns with what he saw as a trend of arts being demolished in an effort to cut costs. However, I do think that the arts are what makes Nauset such a great school. He said, if I weren't for the arts program, I would not be here as a student. I've been talking to teachers and friends all day about this, and what makes Nauset so special is what makes the Outer Cape so special, echoed Fiona McRae, a senior and drama student from Orleans. It's the artists and the visionaries and the creative minds. And at least from my own perspective, it seems like this administration is cracking down against this. Despite the change, Clancy in her email said the district commitment to drama and the arts remains intact. Slight shifts of staffing may occur, but there are no cuts to our programs across NH High School, she said. We understand that the arts programs are a critical component of all education, and our programs are popular with strong enrollments. We may continue to refine offerings where needed, but do not project wholesale changes in the foreseeable future. Still, students last week said removing Hamilton from the drama program could have an irreversible impact on the culture he helped to foster. Michaela called him Hamilton, the light of Nauset. I'm just trying to do everything I can to keep that light in our school, she said. Hamilton also worked to hold the drama department to a high standard during ongoing high school campus reconstruction, noted Ashley Anderson, a junior and member of the drama club's executive board. She said Hamilton used his connection in the local arts community to keep production going without a school auditorium in recent years. Through his efforts, he said, performances have been held at other local theaters. When Emma Smith moved with her family to the Cape as a freshman in early 2004, it was only supposed to be temporary. Now a sophomore, she said, she urged her family to stay, in large because of the community she found with the Nauset drama program. Theater affects so many of us, she told the school committee, so please don't cut Ian. Don't take away something that makes this place so special and safe. Judith Schumacher, who chairs the regional school committee, said that the personal matters are not the purview of the school committee, but rather the Nauset administration. When asked if an agenda item can be included for the committee's next meeting to discuss Hamilton's staffing situation, Schumacher was non-committal. We'll see, she said. Molly Kazikoff said Tuesday that a meeting between students and Nauset administrators was being planned. An email for comment sent to Hamilton last week was not returned. Clancy declined to provide specifics behind the decision to reassign Hamilton from the drama department, saying it was a private personnel matter. Sibling trio purchase Brewster Bakery Eat Cake for Breakfast by Mackenzie Blue. Eat Cake for Breakfast, the French patisserie-style bakery with an American twist, has been a Brewster favorite for many years, picking up the Best of Cape Cod accolades since 2019. Earlier this month, it was announced that the bakery had been sold to a trio of siblings from Medway. Tara, Tori, and T.J. Nelson came from a background of restaurant ownership. For the last 5 years, they ran a Cousin's Maine Lobster food truck franchise. Around 4 months ago, when their license was up for renewal, they decided it wasn't a long-term business model they wanted to pursue. While seeking a new entrepreneurial opportunity, the siblings came across Eat Cake for Breakfast and reached out to founder Danielle Nettleton. In 2019, Nettleton opened the bakery in a leased space off Underpass Road. In 2018, she found a two-story office space at 26 Wampum Drive, a stone's throw away from the original location. Over the course of 2 years, Nettleton renovated the space and opened to the public in 2020. The seasonal bakery has garnered quite a following over the last decade, even developing a Brewster staple, the Brewster bun, a pastry made of croissant dough, dusted, brushed with butter, and rolled in cinnamon and sugar. Stepping into this amazing space is truly an honor, and we're so grateful for the opportunity to carry on a brand that means so much to so many, the Nelson siblings wrote in a social media post. They went on to thank Nettleton for the establishment of the brand. Your vision, passion, and hard work built something incredibly special, and we're committed to honoring that as we step into this next chapter, they said. At the May 12th Select Board meeting, TJ said there may be a few small changes to the business, but they're planning to keep most of the iconic products the same. Tara said she would continue making and selling the Brewster buns. While nothing is set in stone, the siblings have toyed with the idea of expanding the menu to include lunch sandwiches and even gelato. They're hoping to keep the brick-and-mortar shop open past 1 p.m., a previously common closing time, due to items selling out. The bakery is set to reopen this coming week. They're currently looking for new staff. Commission reconsiders Walther Road Stairs Project by William Galvin. The Conservation Commission has altered its original position on whether stairs to the beach at 23 Walther Road can be constructed on the town-owned property under its jurisdiction. The Commission agreed last week to follow a second legal opinion issued by the Town Council concluding that the stairs could be rebuilt. Conservation Administrator Amy Usowski said the question was whether the town could move forward with filing a notice of intent for a hearing to build the stairs. She said the project would still have to meet the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act and the town's wetland bylaw for placement of the stairs over a coastal bank. The motion approved was to notify the Select Board that, based on the second legal opinion, construction of the stairs is legally possible. Stairs to the beach have existed at the location off and on over the years. Usowski said the winter of 23-24 generated several coastal storms which washed away the stairs to town beaches along Nantucket Sound, including at 23 Walther Road. The property is under the jurisdiction of the Commission. In conducting due diligence, Usowski examined the deed to the property that was gifted to the town by Josephine Jenkins. According to the deed, no structures, except for a bike rack, could be placed on the property. The language was brought to town officials. An initial legal brief from Town Counsel Catherine Klein of KP Law opined that stairs should not be built. The Select Board disagreed with that opinion and sought a second. Amy Quetzel of KP Law delivered the opposite opinion, saying that the stairs could be built. Matt Supton, whose family once owned the property and sold it to Josephine Jenkins in the 1950s, has taken issue with the second legal opinion. He told the Commission that when Jenkins gifted the property to the town, she did not want a public beach there. She stipulated there be no improvements to the property. A bathhouse was removed, while a set of stairs remained, he said, asserting that Jenkins' intention was for the property to remain in a raw state. He said the push from the people in the neighborhood to construct the stairs would mean that her intentions will not be honored. If the provisions of the Jenkins gift are not honored, others will not trust the town to do so with other gifts, Upton said. There seems to be principle here. The Select Board is more interested in politics than principle, he said. Several residents in the neighborhood spoke about beach erosion and public safety concerns. Bernadette Wastek said that while the cabana was removed, the stairs was not, creating a precedent for the stairs. When Hurricane Bob hit in 1991, the town replaced the stairs. Wasek said that last year, the property next door had granite stone stairs to the beach built on the coastal dune. While there are signs warning people not to use the path through the property leading to the beach, Wasek said those signs won't stop people from accessing the beach, and there could be erosion and safety issues. She said the stairs were likely not mentioned in the deed because the stairs were not considered a structure. I frequently walk that beach, and people are climbing on that beach, and there are no rails, and you have erosion as the sand falls down, said Neil Road resident Karen Larson. It's going to be a total washout there. She said families in that area pay high taxes and would rather access that beach than walk down to the Neil Road beach access. Given the high tax dollars, they deserve the access they had when they bought their property, she said. Catherine Tran said the deed is clear that the property is to be used for recreation. Supton responded that Jenkins gave the property to the town for passive recreation. It doesn't mean building stairs. It means living raw, he said. There's currently a sign at the head of the beach to the dune reading, "Access to the beach via this path is temporarily prohibited due to hazardous erosion coastal bank." The town of Harwich is currently exploring options to provide safe access. In the meantime, public access to the water is allowed via the stairs at the end of Neil Road. The sign was erected by the Select Board and Conservation Department. The Select Board has accepted a $10,000 gift from Walter Road resident Timothy Ritchie to fund the engineering work and stairs designed for the reconstruction. I love the legal profession, said Commission member Wayne Colson of the conflicting legal opinions issued by KP Law. He supported the second legal opinion approving reconstruction to accommodate people in the neighborhood. Commission member Vivienne Mulhay McGuire said she was glad to see the second legal opinion. The present conditions are dangerous for people using the path to get down to the beach, adding that the legal opinion points that stairs existed in 1986 when the gift was made. Commission member Sophia Pilling said she stood by the Commission's original decision based on the initial legal opinion, calling the second opinion a little confusing. If she wanted a beach, she would have specified that, Supton said. She did not. She specified raw ground with a bike rack. It gets down to the deed. You did honor it the first time around until the Select Board put the arm on you. The Commission voted 3-1 to support the second opinion, allowing the town to move forward with a notice of intent to construct the stairs. Celebrate Our Waters returns in June. Wastewater facility tours informational tent planned by Ryan Bray. The Orleans Pond Coalition is stretching its Celebrate Our Waters festivities across 3 phases this year, including select events the first weekend of June. The coalition will be hosting tours of the town's wastewater treatment facility and Overland Way on June 6, followed by an informational tent that was staged at the Depot Square on June 7. For more than a decade, the coalition has annually hosted a slate of programs and offerings each September geared towards better educating residents and visitors about the importance of protecting the town's waterways. This year, the coalition opted to stretch its program across weekends in April, June, and September. Eric Spangler, the coalition's president, said the phased approach is designed to reach more people across multiple dates. We are seeing a lot of the same people participating and a lot of the same events, so we felt like it needed to be changed. The town's wastewater treatment facility opened in March 2023, shortly before the completion of the first phase of town sewering downtown. 3 30-minute tours of the facility will be offered from 3 to 5 p.m. on June 6th. Pre-registration is required on the coalition's website. The coalition has offered tours of the facility in the past, all of which Spangler has said have been well attended and received. Wastewater is without a doubt the number one reason our water quality is deteriorating, he said. So if people can understand how you transition from a septic tank, which doesn't do anything to reduce the amount of nutrients that get into our waters, to a process that can pull it all out, I think that's great to let people see it firsthand. The information tent on June 7th will hold a number of organizations that discuss the methods they use to help clean local waterways and test water quality. Among the participating organizations are the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, Silent Spring Institute, the Massachusetts Oyster Project, Old Ladies Against Underwater Garbage, the Orleans Open Space Committee, and the Green Club from Nauset Regional High Schools. The tent will be up from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. We think that by seeing these volunteer groups and understanding a little bit about how they go out and understand the quality of our waters and test them, hopefully people will get a greater appreciation of the need to protect them and see what they can do. The upcoming June events will be followed by the Coalition's classic slate of Celebrate Our Waters event in September. Those include yoga on the beach, bird watching, and a hike to our Puget Island. Next, new this year, will be the kayak trips out to Samson Island and an overview of ongoing eelgrass restoration project, Spangler said. With 1 minute left, I will only be able to read part of this article. The Senate budget supports the Lower Cape priorities. The State Senate last week passed a $61.4 billion budget for fiscal 2026, which includes a number of key priorities for the Lower Cape while advancing important statewide initiatives, State Senator Julian Sear said. The Senate budget delivers real solutions for real problems, said Sear, a Truro Democrat. We're unlocking housing, tackling the youth mental health crisis, and making strategic investments across the Cape and Islands. Massachusetts faces urgent challenges and an unpredictable future. I'm proud that the Senate met the moment with both compassion and courage. And we've run out of time. Enjoy the rest of your day.